The Tinder Swindler finally stopped. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. A convicted fraudster who was the subject of the Netflix documentary, The Tinder Swindler, has been arrested in Georgia after being named in an Interpol red notice. You may recall the series The Tinder Swindler that appeared on Netflix a few years ago. I analysed that series in relation to the behaviour of Simon Leviev, a comprehensive breakdown of his behaviours, and if you haven't watched it, all you need do is search on this channel for The Tinder Swindler, and it'll bring up the various episodes. I'd very much encourage you to watch that to increase your understanding of this subject matter. I also analysed the prominent victims that appeared in the series also. That material is available in the Knowledge Vault, and you may wish to acquire that to complete your learning and understanding. But Simon Leviev is back in the news again. He rose to notoriety after investigative reports and media coverage exposed a pattern of romance fraud, and he was detained on Sunday at Batumi Airport on the Black Sea coast. Romance fraud is essentially where an individual will, under the auspices of romance and love and intimacy, acquire a victim who they will then milk for financial reward. There was the story of a woman who thought that she was having an online romance with Brad Pitt. There is I think he's a Danish surgeon whose identity has been taken by fraudsters and used repeatedly because he's a doctor and he's handsome to manipulate various women into handing over money, and they only learn out at the final moment that they've been duped. There are women that dupe men, utilising either real pictures of themselves or other women with the prospect of engaging in a romance and ensure that they obtain money from this person, sometimes pleading poverty, sometimes explaining that they've got certain expenses that have suddenly arisen and they need help with. The people behind these romance frauds are often narcissists, for reasons of the absence of emotional empathy, the necessity of asserting control through the utilisation of love and intimacy in romance, the drawing of fuel by way of people's reactions, and of course access to a considerable residual benefit by way of money. But they're not completely the preserve of the narcissists or the psychopaths. Normals engage in it too, because they have no emotional empathy for a stranger on the internet, and their needs, in respect of gaining money, outweigh any consideration for the hapless individual that's duped. Many people read of these instances and shake their heads as another middle-aged woman has been caught out by some handsome fellow in another country into parting with her life savings, and they ask, how could they be so stupid? And I've explained why it happens, and people have been caught out and continue to get caught out. And one of the masters at this game is Simon Leviev. You may recall that he posed as the heir to a diamond fortune, and he used the dating app Tinder to trick dozens of women into parting with their savings to fund his playboy lifestyle. The Israeli fugitive scheme became one of the most notorious examples of catfishing, creating a false online persona to lure victims into emotional and financial entanglements. In his case, the elaborate deception was said to involve fake luxury lifestyles, bodyguards and private jets, making the scam unusually convincing as well as costly. Essentially what he would do would be that he would lure one individual in, use their money to fund private jets, expensive clothing, jewellery, dining out at expensive places, staying in expensive hotels, thus creating the image of a wealthy lifestyle that he has funded, and then he would court that victim using this display of wealth, which invariably turned their head, and then would claim that his money had been caught up in some kind of bank freezing of his accounts, and that he would need money to help him out. By this stage, the victim has become invested, their emotional thinking is high, and they hand over the money without proper consideration of what's going on. He then milks that victim to fund the seduction of the next victim. And on it went. Leviev's Israeli lawyers said they had not been informed of the reasons behind his arrest in Georgia. I spoke with him this morning after he was detained, but we don't yet understand the reason, Sagiv Rotenberg told the Israeli publication Walla. He travels freely around the world. Undoubtedly he does, because he has just continued to behave in the way that was exposed, because even though he gained notoriety, there were still plenty of people that weren't aware of it, or even if they were, might not necessarily believe that it's true, because, after all, he is a convincing liar. An Interpol red notice, based on a warrant or court order issued in a member country, is a worldwide request for law enforcement agencies to locate and provisionally arrest a person pending extradition, surrender, or similar legal action. It was not clear which country had requested it or what offences were alleged. The 2022 Netflix documentary about Leviev featured interviews with several of his alleged victims. Women from countries including Norway, Finland and Sweden were conned out of an estimated $10 million between 2017 and 2019. It was Netflix's most watched documentary at the time, racking up 166 million hours of viewing in its first month. Leviev, who was born Shimon Yehuda Hayut, changed his name by default to pass as the son of Lev Leviev, a Russian-Israeli businessman known as the King of Diamonds. In 2022, a Spanish court issued an arrest warrant for Leviev after he had presented a fake driving licence to the police when his Maserati got stuck on a beach in the southern resort of Tarifa in January 2019. Leviev claimed his name was Michael Bilton, an Israeli citizen, and he avoided arrest at the time by showing proof of residence in Malaga. It took the police 3 years to discover that the identity was fake after contacting the Norwegian journalist who exposed Leviev as a swindler, according to the newspaper Diario Sur. Leviev has served time in jail several times. He is believed to have been charged with theft, forgery and fraud in Israel in 2011 after cashing stolen checks. He allegedly stole a checkbook belonging to a family while babysitting, and another while working as a handyman. He fled the country before his sentencing, eventually settling in Finland. In 2015, Finnish officials charged him with defrauding 3 women, and he was sentenced to 2 years in jail. In 2019, after being extradited from Greece, Leviev was sentenced to 15 months in prison in his native Israel for using a fake passport. He was released 5 months early because of the coronavirus pandemic. Leviev has denial, the first line of the twin lines of the narcissistic defence, that he was a con man. He said, "I was just a single guy that wanted to meet some girls on Tinder. I'm not a Tinder swindler." Nevertheless, he has tried to cash in on the success of the documentary by launching a career in the entertainment industry, charging fans up to £146 for personalised messages on video app Cameo. Now, rather amusingly, there are some people who think that I'm Simon Leviev. Quite how they've reached that conclusion is anybody's guess, but there we are. I'm not. Although, of course, you're bound to say, well, you're going to deny it, aren't you, HG? But I'm not. I can tell you, at this moment in time, I'm not detained by Georgian authorities. But is this going to stop the Tinder swindler? Well, you've just heard that he's been in and out of prison and he's been charged with various offences, and he started off this life of fraud from swindling some people that he was babysitting for when he was much younger. He's now been detained by the authorities. We don't know on what grounds and where this will lead to, but there is the potential, given his past, that it involves fraud, and there is the potential that he might face imprisonment. Is this going to stop him? No. His behaviours are pathological for reasons that are explained in the detailed analysis that I did. He cannot help himself but behave this way because he's driven to do so. He needs the stimulation, he needs the control, he needs the fuel, and he needs that residual benefit in relation to the provision of money and the lifestyle that it affords him access to. In his world, when he is caught, he believes it's an injustice, and ultimately he just chalks it up to one of the hazards of what he does, and occasionally that will occur. In his world, the risk that he takes is well worth it, and if this occasionally means a brush with the authorities, then so be it. So far, nobody's been able to hold him for a significant period of time, and even when he was in prison, he had a sentence cut short because of the coronavirus pandemic. Given that it's likely it'll be a financial matter that he's convicted of, it's unlikely that this is going to be a huge sentence that will keep him detained for long, and it's certainly not going to stop his behaviours. It is hardwired into who he is. And given the prominence of the behaviours that took place between 2017 and 2019 that were reported in 2022, here we are many years later, and he's still up to his old tricks. Still engaged in the financial fraudster activity that he became famous or infamous for. And it shows that, once again, you have a sustained, systematic course of behaviour that is pathological and ingrained. It doesn't appear that the authorities have managed to successfully stop him, and he won't, because this is what he is. This is what he does, and he'll continue to do it until the day he dies. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.